So welcome everyone officially. We're going to start this session. It's about, we're going to focus on Chat GPT, which is generative AI and how you can kind of use it, leverage it to save you a ton of time, help you design lessons, create rubrics. So I actually made this silly PowerPoint with AI, which is why it looks a little strange. And the prompts I used, I basically asked ChatGPT, like, "Hey, I'm doing a webinar on AI and online teaching," and I gave it a few kind of prompts, which is sort of the direction you give the AI. You tell it what you want, and hopefully it gives you something that you can use. So this is sort of what it came out with, and I didn't really edit it too much because I wanted you to see sort of the fact that you do have to tweak this stuff here and there. It's not going to be perfect the first time out. But basically, here's the first slide. It says enhancing online teaching with AI tools, time-saving benefits for educators. And I told it to be kind of funny, which is, you can be the judge, because grading 100 papers manually is 99 too many. I'm guessing that's supposed to be a joke, but yeah. Here's the next slide. And this is using Chat GPT to create assignments. We're going to cover that a little bit today. And I really like this thing that it wrote. Let Chat GPT do the heavy lifting so you can focus on sipping coffee. This really speaks to me as like a coffee lover. And again, I just had Chat GPT come up with the text. I gave it a few things. I was like, here's what I'm going to talk about, XYZ, create this sort of outline slide deck. And then I had it give me this code that I could put into PowerPoint. And then PowerPoint actually has an AI component built in that will scan sort of what you've written in the PowerPoint, and it'll suggest an image. So in this case, the image, it read coffee and it gave me this image. So I just had to click this design suggestion and it created the slide for me. So I really didn't do much to make these. And here we have utilizing ChatGPT for grading rubrics. And it looks like an image of a library. It's kind of blurry, but that's an interesting choice. And then I do like this slide. Canvas announcements made fun. AI is your new digital megaphone. And I like using ChatGPT to help me write my announcements really quickly. It does a good job, especially if you have some sort of task that has a few steps, such as in my case, it was how to book a Zoom meeting, because I have these bookable Zoom sort of one-on-one office hour type meetings that I have set up in my Canvas class. And I had a hard time writing the announcement that gave all those directions without stumbling over my words. But this is cool. You can use AI to help you with your announcements. And I really like the fact that it shows the megaphone there. Streamlining Canvas announcements. I do like that. And here's one we're probably may or may not cover: crafting welcome videos with AI. AI made welcome videos because who doesn't want an AI co-host? That's a little strange, but it did give the camera, which is cool. That's a cool image. And then we're going to talk a little bit about enhancing discussions with Harmonize. And I do want to talk about a couple built-in, they call them LTIs, but I just like to call them apps inside a Canvas that you have access to that actually already have AI integrated into them. So if you use Harmonize, and I can do a quick demo of how to make a harmonized discussion in Canvas, it'll actually it'll help you compose your discussion prompts and stuff. And then we have a brand new app as well called ThingLink, which is really cool if you're into building scenarios and sort of tagging images. Like you can make those sort of maps. You could have a map of the school with little icons that students can click on, and it's really cool, kind of a cool app to make learning objects. And it's got AI built in as well, so it helps you along the way. And then I'm going to freak you out with this last couple slides here. All right, this one's not very freaky, but it gave the little light bulb, which was cool for the Q&A at the end. In conclusion, AI makes teaching so much fun. Even your PowerPoint has jokes. That's debatable again. And then this was, I just made this video yesterday, and I'll show you the thumbnail that I made for my how-to video. And this is really freaky. This is, I figured out just yesterday, I kind of perfected how to use ChatGPT to correct closed caption files. So I make a lot of how-to videos, and for accessibility, you want to have those captioned correctly. And I figured out a way to get the ChatGPT to actually fix the spelling and the punctuation for those caption files. And you can imagine how long that used to take me to do. I had to, sift through this long block of text, and imagine just one sentence that never ends with and a bunch of misspelled things. And basically this does it in a matter of minutes. And this is, I just love this weird image here. Like, I actually made this in Canva, but everything, all these images, like the UFO, the beam of light, the little, the sort of astronaut in the lawn chair there, and of course our friend over here on the right, this alien. These were all AI generated images. I didn't actually come up with those images, but it's funny. I use Adobe, and if you have a license for Adobe stock, you can search images, and now they just have AI images in there. So if you're searching for an alien, it'll give you about 50 or 1,000 different aliens, and most of them are AI generated, which is pretty cool. Today we're going to be talking about the free version of ChatGPT. So once you sign up for an account, it's pretty easy. You just give it your Google or whatever you want, and you can get a free account. And then you get this interface here, and it's really straightforward. You have the new chat in the upper left corner, and this is good to kind of keep, ChatGPT will remember everything that you're talking about. So, and that way you don't really have to rewrite things. So each time you ask it a question and want to refine it, it's going to remember everything in that sequence. But if you want to start fresh, sometimes you can hit new chat. So if you're doing a whole new thing, like if you're creating an assignment and then you want to create a different assignment or a syllabus or something completely different, you would hit new chat just to start fresh. And from here, you have some examples. These are just some example prompts from ChatGPT, giving you a little help of what you think you might want to write, including a thank you note to the babysitter. And then below it is the send message area. This is where you're going to type in your prompt. And then it's very simple. Once you've typed in your prompt, you're going to click that little paper airplane to send that off to ChatGPT, who will then generate a response. So it's quite a nice, simple UI, which I appreciate as a design-minded person. So let's try something here. And if you want to write something in the chat, go ahead. But we're going to try creating an assignment first off. So I'm going to do prompt number 1. I'll paste it in here. And this is write me an assignment for my junior college level ESL class to develop listening, speaking, and grammar skills at a very basic level. So this is kind of, I would say, a level 2 maybe. And then this is what it's going to come up with. And it's pretty interesting. It just happened in seconds. It gives it a title, Everyday Conversations, Building Basic ESL Skills. It has an overview here, what they're going to work on, listening, speaking, and grammar skills. It's emphasizing the basic level. And then it's telling us that it's going to be everyday conversation, simple ones. And here's the objectives. This is quite cool. It tells you what the objectives are and the instructions, the time that it's going to take, listening comprehension, saying we can play a short video of a conversation after listening, write down the 3 key points, etc. And this is pretty good. This is really detailed. This would cover a nice classroom experience. But let's say we don't teach in a classroom. Maybe we teach this online in Zoom, over Zoom, or maybe we teach this completely asynchronously where, you know, we're not going to be interacting in real time with the students and giving them these directions. So those are kind of the refinements you can use as well. You can also get a little more specific, like this one just came up with this sort of conversation thing, but you might want a more specific topic to cover. You know, you can totally rephrase stuff. You can add stuff. You can give it more context. So for instance, if you want the students to read an article or base the assignment on an article, you can absolutely paste the article in this area below and just say, based on the following text, please create a written assignment, you know, and then you can be very specific. I want students to look for this XYZ, you know, I want them based on this image, I want students to identify, you know, some semiotics or something of that nature. You can get really specific. The more kind of input you give the AI, the better the outcome in many cases. You're still going to want to, as the subject matter expert, you're going to want to look it over because I've found it's not perfect. And if you have experience, you'll know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you'll want it to do something and it'll frankly just make stuff up just to kind of, I don't know why, but it'll do some funny stuff. And the bigger the task, sometimes the longer it has to generate, the more text, the more it'll make mistakes. So it does require a critical eye. So let's give it a little refinement here. Refinement. We'll say, make this on the topic of simple, present tense, and make it for an online asynchronous course. And kudos to me for spelling asynchronous right on the first try. All right. So here's what it says. Assignment title, Mastering Simple Present Tense. Here's something you'd have to rewrite. Online asynchronous learning, right? I don't think you want that. The fact that it really thinks I want this spelled out in this online asynchronous assignment. Can you imagine telling your students that? You will focus on developing understanding of simple present tense in English. So it's giving me the simple present tense topic, which I like. Gives me this, understand, you know, these objectives have changed a little bit. And now it's focused a lot on the simple present tense. It's still giving me a lot of this, these time limit things. So it's not quite perfect, but we're getting closer to what we want. So that's one way you can do to build on these. And you can say, like, right now, this is 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 25 minutes. It's pretty long. You can say, condense this down to a 20-minute quick activity, something like that they can do, or homework, something like that. So we're just trying to sort of tease out the right ingredients here. This is much better. I'd be much happier giving this to students. This other one, frankly, was just really long. You can see I can't even scroll down the whole thing. But this one here, this one is kind of working. And they put the word quick in there. Objective, to practice and demonstrate understanding of the simple present tense in English. And again, you can paste in your objectives and say, please base the assignment on the following learning objectives. And you can even give it a point value, stuff like that. So this is much better. It's asking students to read a short passage and then identify the sentences, right, that are where simple present tense is used. Practice and record. This is a really cool thing to get students to do. So they practice it and they record it, and that I'm assuming that's what they're going to upload. You could ask it to give more detailed instructions regarding recording. You can get it to flesh out certain areas if you want. You just have to ask it to do that, or you can do it yourself if you know. Reflect after recording. Listen to your voice and make note of any pronunciation and intonation errors. You can definitely expand on things or give examples. Another thing would be, give students an example. I especially like to do that when I have it write discussions. I always have it give a sample response so students can kind of have that reference. All right, and then it's asking them to fix any errors they might have had, and then it's telling them how to submit it. The sentence you practice and recorded, and your reflection on the experience. So that might be a little too much. Maybe you just want them just to do the sentence and then the reflection. But that's kind of cool that we just came up with this pretty simple activity for them to practice and even submit a recording. And then let's move on to something different. So now we can ask it to create a rubric. So once we're happy sort of with what we have here, we can say like, okay, there's maybe the identify, the recording. So there's kind of two things sort of there, and then the revision. So we can say, please create a rubric, right? Actually, I don't know why I'm typing everything. I have it in my notes. This is the lack of sleep, but here we go. Please create a rubric for this assignment. Make it 25 points. And let's just leave it and see what it comes up with. I'm not going to give it anything else because I just want you to see what it comes up with, just with nothing. And this is pretty cool. Just right out of the box. I like this. Identification of simple present tense is the criteria. And then it has these 5, 4, 3, 2, and then it looks like 1 point inadequate. You might want to add a 0 for if they didn't turn it in, but that's kind of self-explanatory. So maybe you don't need that. But this is pretty interesting. Student accurately identifies and highlights all relevant sentences in the provided passage where the simple present tense is used. For 5, 4, they do it with only minor admission, and etc. So this is really good out of the box. And this you can really easily put into a Canvas rubric. And here's pronunciation practice, right? You're going to grade that. Recording improvement. This because it's still including that sort of listening. This is actually, I like the fact that the more I think about it, I like the fact that it lets them record once, reflect on it, and then record again. Although without sort of someone helping them, I don't know if they would be able to identify their errors, right? On first listen, if they were on their own. So maybe we would ask to take this part out. Or if this is a live sort of Zoom experience, it might be perfect. You can give them some pointers there. Reflection, if we're taking that out, we could leave that in if this were a discussion. We could add something where, okay, I want you to listen to other people's submissions and then reflect and give that a point value as well. But just right out of the box, this is pretty good as a rubric here. And you can ask it too to simplify, because we are dealing, in this case, with basic ESL learners. So maybe we want ChatGPT to rewrite this rubric and make it a little easier to understand as far as some of the words used. make it very simple to read. But there you go. It's quite amazing. Just with a few prompts here and there, we had it do some things that would have taken a ton of time to actually do this. And I will note too that in ChatGPT, you have, and I'm just getting used to the new Zoom. I updated my Zoom, so my drawing tools have moved. But you'll see over here, you have a little, it looks like it's hard to see, but it's like a little clipboard. And that is what you're going to click on. That's your copy. That's going to copy this entire output, and you can paste it. So we were in Canvas. I'll paste it on this page. Let me delete those arrows. So you wouldn't want to paste it on a page. You'd put this in the proper rubric section, but just so you can see kind of how it looks, there I pasted it in. It didn't keep the table because it's not formatted correctly. That might be something you could ask it to do. I'm just curious. So let's see. I'm going to say, please output this rubric. This is a good experiment in HTML. Let's see what it does. So now it's giving me a bunch of code here, right? And you don't really have to even know what this is. I just wanted to see if this is going to work to give us that. So just like that little clipboard, in this case, if it gives you like a code output, which you can use to, if you wanted to spit something out in plain text or any kind of code, you can click the clipboard to copy the code. You'll get a black box like this, just like a code box, and basically means it's going to be devoid of any kind of web formatting, which is the problem we had when we pasted in that last one. So here we are. I'm going to go back into Canvas. I'm going to click on the code. I'm going to switch to HTML by clicking that one. And this might be something to play around with. You can go into ChatGPT and say, hey, paste in your page, your content. Like you can copy and paste your page content and say, hey, I want this to look a little different. Can you suggest some stuff and give me some code? That'd be a fun experiment. So here I'm going to just paste in that code that I copied from ChatGPT. And let's see if this makes a table, just like the one. So here we go. Let's see. It should be at the bottom. There you go. Like, look at that. It's a table that we really didn't have to. I got it to give us the table in HTML, and I pasted it right into Canvas, and that's what it looks like. Sorry, I zoomed out too far here, but yeah, there you go. That's kind of the stuff it'll do, and a lot of it is just sort of trial and error. Like, hey, I really want it to help me with this task that's complicated, and I wouldn't know how to just write this to make a table like this perfectly. And then of course you can use this checker at the bottom. I'm curious if this table that we just put in, this rubric table, is accessible. That's a good question. And we might even be able to ask ChatGPT to do that. So this, I'm just going to go through the accessibility checker. Here it is. Yeah, here's our table. So it's saying it needs a caption. So we could just do this inside of Canvas. We could add a caption here. Assignment rubric. Let's see. And then it's asking for a header scope. So this will be, I believe it's a row, but I'm not sure. But anyways, it's asking for a lot of accessibility here. So I'm curious if we went back to ChatGPT and said, can you make this table code accessible? And I'm sorry if I'm sort of veering off, but this is fascinating because I think accessibility is one thing that is going to get a lot easier with these AIs that are working for us now. Let's see what happens. Just curious. Certainly, to make the HTML table more accessible, you should add appropriate table headers, captions, and use the scope attribute for header cells. Here's an updated version with these accessibility improvements. So this is unbelievable. And it's put it all in the code. So you don't have to be an expert, but just know that each of those table headers are now set as column. The scope is set. It's added a caption. The caption reads rubric for simple present tense homework, 25 points. It's incredible. This is really incredible when you think about it. And yes, we could just add this rubric inside of a rubric in Canvas, and you should do that because it will help you grade easier. But a lot of times, a student doesn't see the rubric in the assignment unless they click a button somewhere or 3 dots somewhere to say show rubric. I believe it's discussions that do that. But this way, you can put the rubric in rubrics, and you can also add it to your assignment so that it's easily visible by your students. So you now we've created, here's that caption rubric for quick, simple present tense homework, 25 points. And now look down below. Remember how we had like 8 errors before on the, it's hard to read, but this little accessibility checker had the number 8 just moments ago. I replaced it with the accessible rubric. And now when we click on this, it's only going to point out the heading level, right? Which is not, I don't want to throw good old Dr. Sean Neufer under the bus, but it looks like it is a heading 2. The first heading should be a heading 2. I'm going to say, yeah, okay, let's change it. Now it's asking some other things. But the point is, we got that table in here with very, very little work. Any questions so far? And again, I'll be sending out a lot of information on all of this stuff. So rather than
question in the chat. Sorry, Cyrus.
One in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the policy for using? I'm not sure. Not sure if there's a policy. I will say there probably is one soon. I'm not familiar with it. I will ask about that though. And when I send out those resources, hopefully I'll get a firm answer on that. I will say in this course, this AI course with all these interesting things, one of the things in here is a sample. Where is it? I'm trying to find it. And here's some ChatGPT proof assignments that, oh, here it is. Here's a sample policy that Sean Neufer uses. And it's pretty interesting. So he actually encourages, at least for this course, obviously it's a course on AI, he encourages the use. And it's really interesting when you go and see the assignments he's created. A lot of them are involved like, hey, I want you to use ChatGPT to develop, in one thing, I think it's some sort of policy, a hiring policy or something. He gets them to design it, and he makes them record all the refinements that they make and then check it for accuracy and then show them, that's all part of this big project, this ChatGPT project. So you can use it. And he points out too that a lot of people will just be using this very shortly. It's just going to be part of life. My wife uses it all the time in her job. She's a UX designer, and English is her second language. She speaks pretty good English, but she's not super confident, especially with sort of technical stuff. So a lot of emails and things she runs through ChatGPT, asks for them to rewrite it, because she's dealing with people all over the world that are working on different projects and things. So she uses it every day. And my friend's a screenwriter, that's not to get too off topic here, but the strike, that was one of the things, was what are we going to do if the AI starts writing these scripts? And basically they said, look, you can use AI to help you write a script. You just have to say, like, I've used AI to help write this. That's basically what it says in the new contract. And my friend was telling me, he's like, yeah, everyone's going to use it. It saves you so much time. So there you go. I think we're better off just trying to go for it and accept it and try to adapt to it and embrace it in some cases, because it does help us in many ways. In many ways, it's a little scary. So let me see if I have it in here. Okay, yeah, Zoom office hours. So, and I did this last time. So here again, remember I wanted to it to write an announcement. So I said, please write a message to students explaining that I will help them in office hours in Zoom on a first come, first served basis. Students will wait in Zoom in the waiting room and be served in order of arrival. So like that sentence is not very clear. It kind of is, but it's not something I would send out. And so here's what the first iteration was, which was office hours on Zoom, first come, first served assistance, which is cool. Dear students, I hope this message finds you well as we navigate through our course material. It's a little wordy here. To provide you with the support you need, I'm pleased to announce that I will be holding office hours on Zoom. Come on. All right. And then here's the details, right? Date, time, link. This is good. That's what we want our students to know. During these office hours, I'll be available to address your questions. Okay. Yeah, we know. So again, this is too long, first of all. This is the part that I wanted. The how it works was mostly what I wanted. So you're going to join the waiting room, okay? And then you'll be helped in the order that you entered the waiting room. That's what I want them to know. And I really like this line. This system ensures fairness and allows everyone an equal opportunity. I just didn't want them to feel like they were being left to wait in the waiting room. And I just wanted to be clear, like that they're going to be helped. It's a first come, first serve. Interaction time. Once it's your turn, I will admit you into the main session. You will have the chance to ask questions, etc. Okay. And then again, it's too wordy. This is the part I had a problem with, other than it being too long. Remember that your questions might be beneficial to others. If you find that someone else is discussing a topic you're interested in, feel free to stay and listen. Like, that's not how we do our office hours, right? We want our students to not worry about other people listening, if they're, I keep them private one-on-one. So that's what I said. I said in the next thing, I said, please take out the part that says they can stay and listen. These are private. And it said, sure, I'll do this, right? And it went ahead and did it. And I believe somewhere in here, it said, yeah, however, please note that our sessions will be private and one-on-one. Okay, so I liked it. And then again, it was too long. So I said, and this is again, the giving it kind of a persona. In this case, I said, please critique this announcement and explain suggestions for improvement, then rewrite the announcement based on those suggestions. And here's what it does. It critiques its own work and says, here's the things you can improve: clarity, repetition, you can condense that. You repeat this too much. Engagement, give it a personal touch, right? That's something we could ask it to do. Anytime you send out an announcement, you can say, hey, can you give us a personal touch? I know Jim Martini would like that. He's always humanizing his course, right? Redundancy. You can ask it to take out technical jargon, explain stuff. And then, so these are the suggestions. Contact information. This one I thought was a really good suggestion that I hadn't thought of. Include your contact information. You may also want to remind students of your email address for questions outside of office hours, right? We always send out our Zoom link. Here's our Zoom link. And then we forget, like, oh yeah, a lot of them can't make it, aren't going to be able to make it. Go ahead and send me an email, or, you can change that to the inbox, whatever you want. But I really like the fact that it gave that suggestion, very helpful. And then it said, okay, now we'll rewrite the announcement with these suggestions. And here is the updated one, which is a little shorter and clearer and more engaging. I like it. Now it says, I trust you're making excellent progress in our course. I kind of like that. I just kind of like that has a ring to it. As we move forward, I want to ensure that you have ample opportunities for clarification and guidance. Okay. Therefore, I'm pleased to announce my Zoom office hours. That's a little bit much, but when Zoom link, and then it's much shorter here. During these office hours, I'm here to assist you to ensure it's fair, first come, first serve. How it works, it's kept the how it works, included the word private session, right? And then that's it. And then it says, if these conflict with your availability, don't worry. You can always contact me via email, right? And we can arrange something else, So you might want to say, just take out this arrange an alternative time, or just, communicate with email only. But there was, I basically left it there. And I think this is a pretty good announcement. You can keep going if you wanted to. And again, all you have to do once you get it to how you like it is copy that, paste it into your announcements, send it off. And you could do these very quickly, weekly, or, and you can change it up if you want week to week, and you can get them all done and put in Canvas, set them to go out in the future and have it all done very quickly. There we go. Let's do this one. So Harmonize is a tool to make kind of pretty cool discussions. And to use Harmonize, you're actually going to use your assignments. So we're going to create a new assignment here. Click on Assignments, plus Assignment, the blue button in the upper right corner. You can name it. I'm just going to call this Harmonize. And then you just scroll down. We can give all this stuff later as far as points. But for submission type, you're going to select External Tool. And this is where you click Find, just below that. And now you can scroll down, and it's all alphabetical order, and you can click on Harmonize Assignment. And this is just to integrate Harmonize, and we're going to create a discussion. So don't get thrown by the fact that you have to use assignment. It's really a discussion. So now we can click the blue select button. All right. And I'll click save right now. And now we can click this load Harmonize in a new window, and that'll let us create the Harmonize discussion. So there's a little bit there. And here you go. You have, and I'll zoom in a bit. It's basically kind of a discussion on steroids. So you would put the instructions in here. You can add files if you want, images and stuff, or you can add videos, things like that, links. So all that stuff is there. But you'll notice it says let ChatGPT write your discussion prompt. That's a new feature, and it's got a let's brainstorm function here. So it's basically ChatGPT built into this tool. And one of the other things I like, this tool will let you set milestones. So if you know regular Canvas, one of the limitations for Canvas discussions is you have to kind of grade everything. You can only give one due date, whereas this one, you can have a due date for initial post and then another due date for their response to their peers. So that's what a milestone is. You can even set up auto grading if you want. So there's different sort of options with Harmonize that aren't in the regular Canvas discussions. So, and one of them is this ChatGPT. So we're going to go ahead and click on Let's Brainstorm. And this is where ChatGPT gets involved. You can click on, and let me see if I can zoom in a bit. I want my students to, and if you click on change, it's going to show you all the Bloom's taxonomy levels. So you can tweak this to whichever one you want. I like the create new work. That's a good one for discussions. I really like discussions where where students share what they've worked on and then comment on others' work or critique it. I think that's a great way to learn. But again, pick whichever one you want, and that kind of gives it a little something to work on. And then you can type here, what subject do you want your students to discuss? And it says start with a clear, direct question or statement, must be at least 25 characters. So maybe I have one I can paste in here, because this one I want the students to write learning objectives. I want the students to create a learning objective and share it. And then, so I'm going to put this prompt in here. It says, I want students to find an example of an effective learning objective, to identify the components in your example. Please give them an example, right? And then summarize in a few sentences what makes an effective learning objective. So let's see what happens. And you can even add your own learning objective down here. It says optional. So I could paste in one if I had one. By the end of this discussion, students will be able to X, Y, Z. Let's see. Or I could get ChatGPT to write a learning objective based on this assignment, right? So here's what is happening in Harmonize. And it's a little wordy, I can already tell, but at least it's working, and it's giving us something here. And I like this. It's telling the students what to look for in an effective learning objective. So remember I said I want them to identify the components of a good learning objective. So here's the components: specificity, measurability, achievability, relevance. I don't know, but yeah, these words, I might change them, but I like these descriptions. Links to the broader learning goals and values of the course, realistic expectations, framework, all this stuff is good, but you can tweak it, absolutely. So if you like it, you click add this and it'll just put it in there, or you can suggest improvements. So, if you wanted to make it shorter, I would say that. So here's a couple improvements. I'm going to say, please make the topic and instructions no more than 3 paragraphs. Please add an example of an objective learning example. So you can keep refining this, but basically it'll help you write it for you. And, other refinements you could say, like, oh, add a requirement for them to read their peers' examples and discuss why their learning objective is effective or not, or improve on it, something like that. So here it is. It actually did it for us. Respond to at least 2 classmates' posts. That's great. But you can, again, if you want it to tweak it, you just tell it. And this has made it a lot shorter, right? It didn't give an example. Notice that it didn't give an example. So that's something you would want to add. And again, if it's not giving you what you want, you can always go back to ChatGPT and try ChatGPT and paste it in. You don't have to use one tool or the other, but it's kind of nice that it's all built in there. And the last thing we're going to check out is kind of a fun one, ThingLink. And this is an app that we're sort of evaluating. And it basically lets you create these learning objects. And I asked ChatGPT to help me with this because I wanted to build a scenario. So let me find my little, here we go. So this one I asked, hey, ChatGPT, create a short linear branching scenario teaching people to use ChatGPT. It will include some introductory text, an image of the interface, and the image will have tags pointing out the areas to enter text and send queries. Lastly, will be a question to test their knowledge. So I asked it to do that, and I'm going to actually share the link to what I made, and it took me about 5 minutes to make this. All right, and I'm going to hit that button. All right, so now we can do it. But basically, I asked ChatGPT to come up with a scenario to teach ChatGPT, and it's really cool. Like, I just pasted it in, so here it is, and you might be playing along if that link's working. And it's just, here's the scenario, and it's got these little buttons here you can click on, and it tells you what the different components are. Here's the new chat button. Here's the send message. It tells you what that does. So I've kind of created this, and you can click proceed, and then it'll say, hey, you can ask ChatGPT to tell you a joke. Type the prompt in the user input box. Once you've typed the prompt, click send, and then here it is. Tell me a joke. Sure, here's a joke. And this is the prompt. I've labeled that. And this is the ChatGPT response. So, and then you click proceed, and then there's a question, multiple choice question, and that's it. That's it. Real quick. That was an easy one. But when you build this, you go into this cool thing, and when you click on them, like here, I'm going to create one. And again, that took me like a few minutes. And you can have, some art. If you teach art, you could have a picture of the Mona Lisa, and you can have labels on different, here's an example of symbolism or color, or the peach symbolizes this and the hummingbird is this. You can totally do your own thing. You can put 3D images in there as well. But the cool thing is when you create these, it gives you sort of different templates. So if I wanted an escape room, you can make them complicated, but they have these templates. But the cool thing is, I'm trying to think. So I forget what I did, but I'm going to add a text thing. Here it is. So I just wanted to show you that this tool has AI built in. So you're creating this scenario, and you can have images, and then it branches. So the next thing can be a video, and the next thing can be, then you can have like a multiple choice question. So you can kind of build these really cool things, and you can put these inside a Canvas, and it'll actually link to the gradebook even. But it has AI built in. So AI can help you suggest things and write a recap. It's really interesting. I haven't played with this enough to really show you all the goodies, but this is just sort of what's happening in the world right now. They're building these things to make our lives easier and to create kind of more engaging learning for our students. And before, this would take forever. Like I went to grad school for instructional science, and I built a branching scenario, and it was, teaching students how to access basic needs stuff. And tutors, and it was sort of like a choose your own adventure where they would have to click, and it would take them to different places in the library. It took me so long to make it, whereas if I had this tool, it would probably, I could have saved a ton of time and headache. Yeah, that's it for now. Let's see. I could show you a weird video if you want to watch a weird video that I made using AI, a welcome video for an art class.
Hello, and welcome to our online art history class. I'm thrilled to embark on this artistic journey with each one of you.
But let me tell you why this class is so exciting. We're going to dive headfirst into the captivating art movements of the last century. Imagine the radical shift from the structured geometry of Cubism to the whimsical dreamscape of Surrealism. Picture the visceral energy of abstract expressionism and the colorful, consumer-driven world of pop art. We'll even explore the vibrant and subversive world of street art.
Ever wondered why a blank canvas or a urinal could be considered art? We'll unravel the mysteries and controversies that make art so wonderfully complex, and at times, even provocative. Your voice matters. Your thoughts, questions, and perspectives will shape our discussions. This is a space for your creativity and curiosity to flourish.
All right. So that's some pretty weird stuff. Everything was AI in that, and I didn't tweak it too much because I wanted sort of just to show you sort of the raw things. And I used different voices. Normally I wouldn't be using those voices, but I wanted a variety of voices so you could sort of see that. But all those characters, all the images, I used these different image generator AIs to create the paintings, all the paintings in there. I just said, make a cubist, a cat in the cubism style, make a cat in the surreal style, make a pop art cat like Liechtenstein style. And then I had ChatGPT write the script. And then I used these AI voices, which sound very human-like in a weird way. And then I used another AI program to create those talking presenters so that the artwork could talk. So I had, the weird paintings come to life and start talking to the students. And that's what I came up with. So I'll send you all those little links to stuff you can play around with. Some of the stuff you have to have you use the free trial because they want to charge you money, but you do have like a lot of stuff you can make for free using those free trials. So that's a little fun thing I made, and I'll send you some of those links to the voices, where to do the voices. So even if you don't like to be on camera or make a welcome video, you can do something like that. And it doesn't have to be that kind of crazy, but you can have a voice, you can type out a script and the voice will read it, and maybe have some images in there as well. But it's kind of fun to play around with this stuff. All right, so that's it